for the record, we're going to be reciting, and I don't know if any of my students are here, but we've been studying the riwayat Sufi and Abi Amr, and so I'm going to be reciting in that riwayat. It's one of the 10 mutawatir qira'at, and I have a dozen in that, so I'm happy to read it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم فإن تولوا فقل حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم.
So really quickly, how do you feel when you're making that recitation? These verses are about a messenger comes to you, he's concerned about your suffering, anxious for your well-being, gracious, merciful to the believers. If they turn away, Allah is sufficient for me, there's no God worthy worship but Him, and in Him I put my trust, He is the Lord of the mighty throne. How does it make you feel?
For me, it makes me full of love for the Prophet ﷺ, because I'm like, he's harisun alaykum, and bil mu'minina ra'ufur rahim, you know? So he has such a soft spot in his heart for us as the believers. Yeah, like I'm one of those believers, that means he has a soft spot in his heart for me, and it fills me with hope. And at the same time, it's like, if they reject, that's not on me. Then I say, Hasbi Allah la ilaha illa hu. I have Allah anyway, right? Alayhi tawakkal. I rely on Him, not on anybody else. And He is the Rabb of the Arsh al-Azim, right? That's what I'm thinking of.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لقد جاءكم رسول من أنفسكم عزيز عليه ما عنتم حريص عليكم بالمؤمنين رؤوف رحيم فإن تولوا فقل حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. So, what comes to me in these verses, subhanAllah, is Said Amir was talking about Surah Tawbah, right? And Surah Tawbah, as she said, is very heavy, and it's talking about the hypocrites. And one of the surah is also called Al-Fatiha, the exposer. It exposes the hypocrites. And throughout the surah, they're saying, Huwa udhun, the Prophet ﷺ isn't here, he's this, and they're almost demeaning him. And then the final end is just like, look who you're missing out on, who's right in front of you. So the end is actually like what everyone was missing out on. So the description of that, of who the Prophet ﷺ is almost like, don't leave this gem. And then the second part, and that's the reason I went up in Hasbi Allah, is because no matter how hard you tried, if anybody tried hard enough, it was the Prophet ﷺ. No matter how hard you try, you will never be enough for some people. That's the reality. And the only one who's enough for you, who will sustain you, is Allah. So don't work for anyone else. Because whether you attract them or not, you're returning to Allah. And that's all you need. And I will share this, that my grandfather, may Allah have mercy on him, my maternal grandfather, I spoke about my paternal grandfather who I never met yesterday, but my maternal grandfather, may Allah have mercy on him, was a scholar in Amman, Jordan, and he was, I call him the Tadabbur guru. He wrote books about Tadabbur, mashallah, and his recitation was Tadabbur. If you just listen to him, you know about the ayah even if you don't know the meaning. And he would recite this particular ayah in Fajr sometimes. And he would recite it like this. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ, like that. But then when he gets to فَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ, suddenly he would go up. And I remember being a kid, no idea what the verse means. Then all of a sudden my grandpa at Fajr, and my eyes are barely open. He's like, Hasbi Allah. I'm like, what is in this verse? So now when I read it, that Hasbi Allah was amplified because Allah is only enough for you. So I love going up with that. SubhanAllah. May Allah count it in His rewards, ya Rabbi, inshallah.
Because Asr is going to be in 3 minutes, I'm just going to read the second verse because my first verse also was very soft. It's a description of the Prophet ﷺ. But like your grandfather, Hafithullah, Allah preserve them, protect them. And when the next one that I read is the when they turn away the Prophet ﷺ, it's Allahu Akbar, but for her it's like, yes, He is. And for her it's like, the Prophet ﷺ, and then it goes into who Allah is. But the way that you feel, the emotional connection with the verses affects the way you recite the verses. SubhanAllah, we haven't mentioned on that. Please forgive us for our shortcomings as speakers and sisters. May Allah bless every single one of you. It was an honor to hear about it. For having us.